And today's question is, who is the Browns' third wide receiver? And Mary Kay and Scott, I've been saying it on this podcast over and over and over again. The Browns' third wide receiver is actually a running back. I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's where we're going to end up. Kareem Hunt is the guy that we should be talking about as the third wide receiver. We know he's versatile. We also now know that he's been spending some time in wide receiver meetings, which isn't too big of a surprise. He didn't want to really reveal his plans when we got to talk to him in June, but I don't know, the way he mentioned playing receiver, it sure sounded like maybe that's in the works, but he just didn't want to say it. I think when we look at this roster and the decisions you have to make about who gets on the field, Kareem Hunt is the guy to watch at that third wide receiver spot.
You know what? I mean, all the signs are there that he will occupy that spot, because obviously he's a great receiver out of the backfield. That was born in his freshman year in Kansas City. I mean, his rookie year, and even last year to some extent with the Browns. I mean, he really has a knack for being able to catch the ball out of the backfield, whether he's lined up there, he can line up in the slot, he can line up wide. You can do so many different things with him that way that, you know, to have him on the football field and leave that mystery of whether you're going to run the ball or pass the ball, that's position gold to Kevin Stefanski. I mean, to him, you know, that is the ultimate football player.
I think it's a good argument to make for Kareem Hunt. It makes a lot of sense. He had like 43 catches in 8 games, which was almost exactly as many as Nick Chubb had all season. But that's not my pick for third receiver. My pick for the third receiver on this team is actually going to be Odell Beckham Jr. And here's why. I think Jarvis Landry is going to be the leading receiver on this team. He's done nothing the past 2 years to make us think that wouldn't be the case this year. Second on the team, I think, is going to be Austin Hooper. He had 97 targets, I believe, last year with the Falcons. And the Browns are paying him a lot of money to be one of the best tight ends in football. They're going to use him a lot. They're going to have multiple tight ends on the field. They want him to be running routes and creating mismatches. They're going to use him. So I think that puts Odell kind of in that third role. Now, we won't look at him as a third receiver. You know, he's the superstar on this team. But I think when all is said and done, there's a good chance that he's going to be third on this team. I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to get to the point of, say, like a Duke Johnson, where he's more receiver than running back. I think he's got too much talent as a running back to make him someone who's challenging for one of the top spots at receiver. But I think it's going to be Odell. He's going to be the number 3 guy because Landry and Hooper just kind of excel in this offense.
Right, so I think there's sort of a semantics game there, right? As far as how we consider the third receiver. Is it the guy who's the third leading receiver on the team? And I think that's a valid argument. I think that we then kind of have to throw Austin Hooper into that argument and sort of how you consider him. And then also it's kind of a depth chart thing. So let's talk about Higgins, brought back. He's not making a ton of money. But he is a guy that I know Browns fans love, and you would think if we're going to talk about third receivers, we have to at least mention his name as a possibility.
Yeah, you have to talk about Rashard Higgins for a number of reasons, including, and not the least of which, is the fact that Baker Mayfield does have a comfort level with him, that he does have chemistry with him. And once again, we have another offseason here where there hasn't been any work with Jarvis, with Odell, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, with anybody. Who does Baker Mayfield have the most work with, the most reps with? And that is Rashard Higgins. We didn't see it last year. We didn't see that come to fruition because obviously he was in Freddie Kitchens' doghouse. But now he already worked with him at the Camp Mayfield last month. So they worked a little bit there together. And they really just have their mojo down from what they did in Baker's rookie year. So I don't think you can count him out.
You know, where are you right now as we wrap this thing up?
You know what? To be honest with you, I think I need to actually amend something that I said earlier, because Scott convinced me that in terms of if we had to pick who the number 1, number 2, and number 3 leading receivers in terms of receptions, and maybe we probably should do this in one of these questions where we talk about touchdown catches and stuff like that as well. But if we had to go in terms of like receptions, maybe that should be the number that we use. I actually now think it will be Jarvis, Odell, and Austin Hooper in 1, 2, and 3 in terms of just flat out receptions.